Hi, team, and welcome to episode 12 of the Health is Wealth podcast. Can you believe it? 12 episodes. Excellent. So, today we've got our star client, our amazing Phil Griffin in the hot seat. And so, what I'm going to do today is just ask Phil a few questions, and then what we'll do a short Q&A at the end. And I hope everyone takes a lot away from this as well, because Phil's going to give us some feedback on how he's walked through his journey, how he stayed disciplined, because what Phil has achieved is amazing. Is initially his first 6-month goal was to lose to 3 stone, which in pounds is like 42 pounds, but he's far surpassed that. His first 6 months. We just passed the 6-month mark. And so, Phil, it's been absolutely amazing watch your journey over the last 6 months. And I really wanted to bring you on because, how you've done it, how you've succeeded, your discipline, your commitment and consistency within the program has been phenomenal, So let's get into it, Phil. So, Phil, how much have you lost so far through the first 6 months?
I've now lost 74 pounds, I think, and there's about over 60 of that's come with EBC. I lost a little bit beforehand, but the vast majority has come since I've been working with you.
I think it was 62, wasn't it? 62 pounds to be precise. Amazing. What an achievement. And to say your goal was 42, like I say, you've surpassed that, which is fantastic. And Phil, before you started the program, how were you feeling? Before you came on board with evidence-based coaching.
Yeah, I mean, I've been struggling for a while. Really, I had kind of no energy. And historically, my weight's kind of fluctuated quite a lot. I kind of throw myself into something to lose weight, and then put weight back on. And this time it had kind of gone way and above that kind of peak that I'd had before, really. So my confidence was really low. I mean, just before we had our first call, I'd been on holiday with the family, and the kids wanted me to get into the hot tub, and I was like, no, because I just kind of didn't feel good about myself at all, really. The clothes didn't fit. I had sleep apnea, using a mask every night, the CPAP machine. I had high blood pressure. I've been off work for a period of time with depression. So really, it was kind of a bit of a cliche, really, but I was probably a heart attack waiting to happen, really. And obviously, I was kind of prompted into having to take action, really, and do something about it.
Excellent. Well done. And this, a lot of people don't do that. They wait for something to happen before they actually take action. So credit to you there, Phil. Well done. And I know you said you had sleep apnea, and now are you still using the CPAP now?
No, I'm off that. So I went for a review. I think I've been off that for at least 2 months now. So it was quite a surprise for me when I went and have a review with it at the hospital, and they said you don't need it anymore. You're kind of cured. So that was a really nice win, and a big win at that.
Good, excellent. Well done, Phil. And what about the hypertension, the blood pressure? Where we're at there at the moment?
Yeah, that's been great as well. I mean, it was when I first went to the doctors, it was kind of sky high, which was probably a couple of years ago now. I ended up on 3 medications, 2 at maximum dose. So it kind of shows you how serious it was, I suppose, from that point of view. It started coming down over the last maybe 3 months. So I've been having regular reviews with the doctor. And I'm now down to the minimum dose on 1 tablet, which I'm pretty sure when I have a review next week, I'll get rid of that completely. So I'll be completely off that medication for the high blood pressure, which is amazing and far surpassed my expectations, definitely.
Brilliant. Super. Well done, Phil. And so, how do you feel now, Phil, compared to when you first started?
I feel really good. I feel I've got more energy. So if my daughter says, "Oh, do you want to go for a walk?" In the past, I'm too tired, and I was happy just to kind of sit around, not doing a great deal. Now I'll say, "Yeah, definitely, really want to go," and we'll go out for a walk. I just feel better about myself in terms of kind of confidence. So my kind of old clothes, if you like, fit again, and I've got rid of the bigger sizes. I've sold all those. So I just feel a lot healthier. I feel, just feel better, really. I'm kind of enjoying life, really, and kind of rather than kind of watching me pass me by, I guess.
Yeah, brilliant. Thanks, Phil. And what have you enjoyed most about the coaching then, Phil? You know, has anything specific really stood out for you?
I think the main thing has really probably been around the accountability, because obviously we speak obviously regularly, and that's really important. I think without that, I don't think I would have started the process, and certainly not maintained it. I think the analogy would be I was probably like a big super tanker, just probably literally kind of heading in a certain direction, and it was going to take an awful lot to kind of turn me around. So I kind of needed that accountability and support. So there's that kind of from the one-on-one side. I think having the structure that you put in place in terms of the program, but a program that fitted in with my life. So I don't necessarily feel like I was on a diet or anything like that. I've never felt hungry at all throughout the process. I haven't sort of starved myself. And I think as well the kind of the support network that's there. So and some people use it more than others, but certainly at the Slack channel where we kind of support each other. And that's really good when you kind of post a win and people acknowledge that and cheer you on, and you can do the same for other people. And everybody's at different stages. You know, you've got Greg who's running marathons, and then you've got people like Carol who's early in his journey but achieving lots of PBs. And no matter where you are on that journey, everybody seems to support you and cheer you on. So it's a really nice thing to have, really.
Okay, great. And what have you found most challenging then, Phil?
The most challenging thing for me was getting started in the first place. So obviously I made the decision to kind of come and work with you. I signed up, and I remember having the first call with you, and anybody who's had a call with Craig will know it's kind of, he's there, come on, we're going to do this. And I was sitting there and I was doing this, but I didn't feel like this. I was kind of, what have I signed up to? And can I actually do this? So I kind of went away, and I think because of the accountability, they were checking in regularly. Because obviously I'd invested in terms of some money into the program as well. I didn't want to kind of look like a fool to myself or to you or to my wife in terms of I've invested this money and not doing anything with it. So that was kind of a factor as well. And actually just starting off, when I first went out and trying to get in so many thousand steps a day, I was, looking at the watch every few minutes. I've done 500, I've done 1,000, I've done 1,200, and it just seemed to take forever because I wasn't used to the kind of physical activity. Whereas now I just kind of I whip around, and I think things like the app help as well, because the things that we need to try and achieve each day towards our goals, even just clicking on one of those each day is a sort of mini dopamine hit. And if you're doing steps, for example, you go from 1 day to 3 days to 5 days. All of a sudden, you've got a month under your belt, and I think I've got to go over 100 days in a row where I achieve my target without missing it. And that kind of you almost want to kind of keep that run going. So the most difficult thing really at the start was actually, although I wanted to do it and wanted the results, was actually finding the motivation. And actually, it's kind of a really obvious thing, but I got to the age I was, so 50, without kind of fully appreciating that you create motivation through action. So I think in the past, I'd always waited for the circumstances to be perfect. So I'm not so busy at work, or I haven't got this going on at home, etc. And waiting for the perfect time to start something. Whereas this was a case of kind of needs must have had to start. I didn't feel motivated for it. I didn't want to do the work, although I needed to do something. And I literally had to kind of drag myself out of the door to go for a walk each day at the start, or drag myself into the garage to kind of do some weights in the garage, etc. So that was the most challenging thing for me, was the first few weeks, and starting from a very low base. I mean, it took me 2.5 months before I could do a press up. So at the start, I was doing them from the knees, and I did that, and I thought I just got to carry on with this. And then literally it took 2.5 months before I could do it. So that's kind of how low a base I was at. But it was taking the first step and then kind of grinding through those first few weeks until things start to become habit. And that was the most difficult thing by a long way. After that, it's fairly straightforward, or certainly easier. It's just taking the first steps really difficult, I think.
Yeah, and that's what it's about. And would you say you've instilled some good habits now into your lifestyle that you feel you can continue then?
Definitely, yeah. I mean, I'm kind of, you said before, I've been very disciplined about what I've done. So you've given me a program. You said this is what you need to do, and I've followed the program. And I think because I've done that from day one and did it religiously from day one, they then become habits. And I didn't, as I've said before, I haven't done more than you've said or less than you've said. I've just done, this is what I suggest. So if you say so many steps, I think I'll do double that and try and accelerate the program. I haven't done that. But habits around how I manage what I eat. That's always planned in from the day before. Very easy to follow when it's planned in because it's there, and that's almost again ticking off. And this is what I'm eating during the course of the day. And even things like exercise as well. So just being more active generally. It becomes habitual. But like I said, it's making that first step in the work to make it habitual is the hardest bit probably.
Okay. And like doing this program in general, Phil, do you feel like it's had any impact on your family? And what I mean by that, Phil, is do you feel it's taken you away from your family, or has it brought you closer? Or, I'm on about things like eating, like the same food as the family. Do you feel it's had any impact on family life in a negative way?
No, not at all. My wife will sometimes say, I've bought this, can you eat that? And I have to keep reminding her I can eat anything I want. I just need to plan around that. So I eat my main meals with the family every day. Breakfast and lunch, I pretty much have the same things most days anyway, so it's not a problem. We dine out together as a couple and as a family. We have takeaways, that kind of thing. So we do all those things. I've done all those things throughout the journey, and we do all those things together. So it hasn't impacted on that. And I think because of the way I've chosen to train, particularly, again, because of confidence, etc., I didn't want to go to a gym at the start. And I'm 6 months in now and I've achieved a good weight loss. I still haven't been to a gym. So, I bought some adjustable weights and a bench, which you obviously give me some guidance on. I do that in the garage, so I've got no travelling time. I can fit it in when I want to do it. So it hasn't caused an issue from there. Actually, from a mental, I mentioned I had depression before, in terms of the mental side of things, mental health, I feel a lot better. I'm a lot more present for my family, just generally. So I'm and my wife acknowledges that in terms of I've probably been more present in the last 6 months than I've been in the last 10 years, which obviously is great for me and great for them. And part of it's been what I've been doing around my physical health.
Yeah. And what about your energy, Phil? Your energy now compared, with losing that amount of body fat. Do you feel like your energy is better, or can you see much difference there?
No, I've got a lot more energy. Like I say, if I got asked, do you want to go for a walk or do you want to go wherever it was? A lot of the time, my stock response was I'm too tired. And I was happy to kind of sit around really and be pretty lethargic and not really do anything. Didn't have any kind of motivation or inclination to do much at all, really, to be fair. Because obviously I was carrying all this weight around and it kind of does drain your energy. Whereas now I'm the one suggesting things, or if my daughter says, do you want to go for a walk or do you want to go to the shops, or whatever it might be, yeah, I'm happy to go because I've got the energy to do that. So it's really kind of positive.
Brilliant. And it's funny too as well, because like you mentioned earlier, Phil, it's not like you're doing endless hours of exercise. It's like you're having to be more restrictive with your food, although there is a bit more restriction overall. It's not like we're going to be like getting our calories in from chocolate and things like that as such. But do you feel like you've actually been on a diet, Phil, or do you feel that, because you did mention you're having takeaways, you're dining out with the family, which is awesome,
I don't feel I missed out at all. I'm a bit more conscious about what I do and what I eat. So, if I know I'm going out for a meal, then that's great. I kind of work around what I'm going to have, and I've got an idea in terms of the calories and the nutrients that are in that probably before I go, because I know where I'm going and roughly what I might have to eat. And I just plan my other meals around that. So that might mean I have to cut those back slightly, have smaller portions than normal to accommodate that bigger meal later on. But with planned ahead, that's not a problem. So I'm genuinely say, kind of hand on heart, I've never at any time in the 6 months felt hungry. Whereas when I've done diets before, you inevitably feel like you're starving yourself to a certain extent, and do feel that kind of hunger, and you have to kind of fight through that. But I haven't felt that at all, which has made things a lot easier.
Yeah, excellent. Thanks, Phil. And Phil, I know the answer to this question myself, but I'm going to ask you: why do you feel that you have been so successful on this program?
I don't know. I remember it might be in the first Health is Wealth podcast, but I remember John saying that he read somewhere, if you're going to hire a coach, make sure you're coachable. And that kind of really resonated with me. And I think I've achieved what I have because I have been coachable. I was kind of at a point where I just use the word desperate. Maybe that's too dramatic, but maybe it's not. I was kind of desperate to take some action and desperate to improve my health situation, but didn't really know what to do. So I was very open-minded and receptive to kind of what you had to say. You're the expert, if you like. I'm paying you for that service in the same way I would, pay an accountant or a lawyer for their expertise. So if I'm going to pay you for that, why would I not listen to that, and why would I do something different? So it sounds really a small thing, but that's kind of all I've done, really. You made suggestions in terms of this is what I think you need to do. I followed those suggestions. That's it. I can't make it any more sort of complicated than that, really.
Yeah, you've done amazing, absolutely amazing, Phil. And like I say, since day one, you've ticked the boxes every single day. You've been consistent. You've got 100% disciplined. You invested in the program that makes you, like I say, you put the work in every day. I just want to say, well done, Phil. That's me finished with my questions for now. I just want to say thanks for coming on, Phil. But I know the guys are probably Coach John and Coach Greg are going to want to probably ask a few questions, guys.
That's fine.
Let's start with John.
Yeah, so Phil, just a couple of comments. You said you haven't been into the gym yet. It took me a full year of working with Craig and getting to a point where I was comfortable with going through the gym, and that's just a great example of you don't necessarily we don't need to overthink this, right? We don't need to we don't need we got a set of dumbbells and we got our garage, or we've got our basement. You just get at it, right? That's so I love that. I love that comment. You mentioned takeout, getting takeouts, takeaways, and you're still able to succeed. And often I hear the comment, well, I got takeout and it was out of my control, so I just kind of had to guess at what I was inputting into MyFitnessPal. What do you say to someone who approaches you and says, well, we're going to do takeout tonight, so I guess that's out the window, right?
No, I mean, it's one of two things. I mean, it's not normally a spur of the moment thing. It's probably something we've thought about normally, not all the time. But there's a couple of things. I mean, generally speaking, we order food from the same places, so I kind of know what's on offer. And it might mean that I pick something like a chicken kebab type meal with salad rather than a kind of 12-inch pizza with all the toppings on. I'll still have pizzas as well, but I can make a kind of a stab at what the calories are and what the macros and things are as well, and I'll input that in MyFitnessPal, and then I'll save that as a meal. So if I go there again, bring it up again, and I've got that information at hand. And because I tend to try and plan ahead, say if I was having one tomorrow evening, I'll be looking at that tonight. I would put in whatever I was going to eat on that kind of takeout tomorrow night into MyFitnessPal, making a best guess on the calories and what it might entail, either by finding something similar online or just breaking it down into its kind of constituent sort of parts, I guess, really. And then I know that's going to be my kind of biggest meal of the day and the biggest hit against calories and macros. So then once I've got that in, I can work it backwards and say, actually, okay, what can I have for breakfast now? What can I have for dinner? And that might be a bit less than normal. Yeah. Fine. That's worth doing for the fact that I'm going to have a nice meal later on in the day. But it's kind of planned ahead rather than letting it happen to you, I guess, really. That's kind of worked really well for me.
Awesome. One other question I have is on the social side of it. For me, during my journey, I received a little bit of peer pressure, from my friends and family. I have a lot of drinkers in my household, and whenever they stop by, they bring desserts and whatever with them, and so there's a decent amount of peer pressure there. Have you had to deal with any of that peer pressure? And how's that been for you?
Yeah, I've definitely had that. I mean, alcohol was definitely a kind of contributing factor really to the weight that I put on. I think I probably started in lockdown, as a lot of people did, and kind of continued from there. I think one of my friends said lockdown was like being on an all-inclusive holiday. And it probably was. You were eating and drinking as much as you could, and then working from home and that kind of thing. So in the past, I tried to kind of outrun that. So like a lot of people, I bought a Peloton in lockdown, And I didn't compromise anything I did in terms of food and drink. So I might be a bottle of wine a night, and then I'd have a takeaway and whatever it might be. And all I concentrated on doing was burning enough calories on that bike to make sure it covered whatever I was going to eat or drink. So some days I might do 1,000 calories on the bike, go out for a walk with the family for another 600, just so I could stuff my face, basically, which was just kind of crazy. But certainly amongst my kind of friendship group, there's about 15 of us. It is very much, there's a lot of, most activities involve alcohol, but alcohol is something I've kind of cut out because it wasn't helping me just in terms of calories, fitness. I want to be alert the next day so I can work out and carry on the program. It certainly wasn't helping from a mental health point of view either. So I've had that, and it hasn't necessarily been easy all the time, but I think people have kind of appreciated why I've been doing it when I've explained. So I've had the peer pressure, and it's not necessarily easy. But ultimately, so it's just trying to weigh up your priorities, I guess, and what's important to you, isn't it?
Yeah. Awesome. And kudos to you for being able to do that. I mean, that's a tremendous battle all on its own when the drinks start flowing and your friends are over, and you know it's not easy. So well done.
Thank
you. Greg, have you anything?
Yeah, so Phil, I mean, I've just been like so impressed with, what I've seen from you, and just, one shout out for Phil is that he's won like a number of the weekly challenges in the past. So so just great to see you participating in that as well. So one thing I'm curious about, you talked about those first couple of weeks and having to make kind of the shift towards a greater level of activity and just kind of getting your bearings. And then once you got over that hump initially, then it got easier from there. And so I think sometimes when people set New Year's resolutions or they, start something new, you kind of alluded to the fact that sometimes they'll get carried away with it, if you will, and they'll, in some cases try to do more than, they should. And so how did you work through that mental side of it in terms of maybe tempering, well, both the moments where you weren't that enthusiastic, how did you still make it happen? But then in those cases where maybe you would have otherwise gotten carried away with it, you just kind of brought yourself back to like, hey, like, I'm just going to do what I've been asked to do, no more, no less. And if I can be consistent with that, then I'm going to win here, as opposed to trying to, in your case, get to your initial goal of 42 pounds, like, just as fast as possible in, sort of a crash type of way.
I think really from my point of view, certainly early on, I was never going to do too much because it was an effort to do anything. So that was kind of easy to start, albeit it was hard to kind of get into that and kind of do it. And I think I just kind of, when I started to see results, I thought, well, actually, this is working. And if it ain't broke, don't fix it kind of thing. So it was very much kind of, I'm working with Craig. I'm obviously paying Craig to kind of work alongside me. I'm paying for his expertise and his knowledge. And that was kind of good enough for me. I suppose I've had complete faith in Craig, and it's kind of been repaid in terms of what I've achieved. And I think that goes back to that comment before in terms of if you're going to hire a coach, be coachable. So that was kind of really something that kind of kicked in. I tried to kind of embrace the process. So you mentioned like the challenges, and I remember I didn't do the one the very first week, but after that I did. And I kind of, again, it was probably a learning curve for me in the past where, professionally and otherwise, you always sometimes feel like you're competing with people. And I read a comment somewhere that kind of basically instilled back in me that I'm not competing against anybody, I'm only competing against myself. So I remember one challenge I did, and I think it was probably you two guys, I think it was probably yourself, Greg, and John were probably vying for top position. And it was press-ups and different things we were doing. And I was kind of so far off the pace in relation to that, but I kind of kept going every day. And by the end of the week, I was third, but there was only 3 of us that got all the way through. And I kind of thought, actually, that was a really like learning point for me in terms of I was proud that although I wasn't where you were, that was not where I'm at. And that's not what I was competing at. I was just competing against myself to get through the week. So those things add a little bit of fun along the way, really. And again, we obviously kind of support each other and through that. So it's kind of entering into the spirit of that and just thinking, really, from doing that is my bit extra in terms of some extra calories on burn or whatever it might be along the way. So it was just kind of not pushing myself too hard, but just kind of trusting the process, which is the thing we we see all the time, isn't it? But yeah, it's trust in the process.
And then just kind of one other question. Also, when people get going with a new program, I think sometimes they don't think through maybe some of the adjustments that they might need to make in other parts of their lives. So, I mean, it is the case that, as you said, you know, you don't have to deprive yourself of eating out all the time and so on. You don't have to, you can work out at home. You don't have to go into the gym, you know, right? So there's ways that we can kind of integrate this into our lives in a more easier way, if you will. But you still need to change certain things, right, to kind of make this work. And so what have been some of those things that you needed to change to kind of be able to be successful here?
A couple of things. I mean, in terms of just linking back slightly to the previous question, one of the most important things for me in terms of starting the process, not overworking, not underworking, was really having a kind of strong reason why. And I know it sounds very kind of, you know, corny in a way to have to say, oh, write it down and oh yeah, okay, but actually writing that down and having this strong why is really kind of important, I think, because you can go back to that at times when it's, you know, when it's not working for you. So they're kind of things that I've kind of worked at really. And I've forgotten your question there because I went off at a tangent. Sorry, Greg. It was
well, yeah, no, I think once you established the why and once you kind of knew from Craig, here are the boxes I need to check, or, you know, here's how I need to go about doing it. What were some of the adjustments that you needed to make, whether, you know, in how you approached work, how you approached family situations or social situations, or other just parts of your life in general, to then make this work and make it be sustainable for you?
Yeah, I think there are. I mean, it kind of sounds easy when you say I haven't felt hungry and I haven't done this, that, the other. But you're right. You do have to make some sacrifices along the way, and it's kind of making those right choices. And then, obviously, the motivation behind that is having a strong why, like I said. So things like alcohol, which I've now decided I don't drink at all now. Whereas in the past I was quite a heavy drinker. Socially, as I said a moment ago, you know, everything was involved around alcohol and still does really. But I'm not kind of part of that because it's more important to me in terms of priorities to do what I'm doing now. I know that I could, if I wanted to, drink alcohol and it would still fit within the program, albeit I would have to limit that in terms of, you know, not drinking perhaps as heavily as I have done in the past when there were social occasions. That's quite a big change that we've already kind of spoke about in a little bit of detail. And planning ahead really, so, you know, enjoying nice meals out or takeouts and that kind of thing. And again, it's not just I'll order whatever I want as much as I want. And a prime example of that is if I ordered a pizza in the past, I would probably order, you know, I might have had a 12-inch pizza and I probably would have had a garlic bread as well, you know, and that was kind of really great. Now I'll get a smaller pizza and I'm happy having that because I enjoy every mouthful. I enjoy the flavors. It's a treat and I enjoy having it. And I don't have that kind of awful bloated feeling afterwards. So I'm not depriving myself necessarily, but I'm just maybe doing it a bit less or, you know, some moderation in there. So there's that kind of thing around, you know, not eating as much, and that's changed as well. So I kind of consciously do that. I was out somewhere the other week and we had lunch and had a lovely dessert cabinet with all these cream cakes in. And in the past, that would have been, you know, I was having one. But I looked at it, and for the first time probably ever, I can ever remember, I mean, ever, I walked up, looked at it and went, I'm not hungry. And it was just a complete change of mindset because I've got used to kind of moderating and actually, for the first time ever, kind of realizing that actually I don't need that. It's just, you know, I might want it, but I don't need it. So there is an element of sacrifice there and just being more active. So yes, you have to find time. But one of the biggest things is finding time. So I probably, if I work out, it's 45 minutes to an hour. I do it at home at the moment, and that's 4 times a week. And then I'll go for, you know, walks here and there and that kind of thing. So that involves some time. But again, a big trigger for me when I first decided to work with Craig was that if you've got an iPhone, you get a report every week that says that you've been on your phone for 7 hours, 30 minutes. And I thought if I can do that every day, doing nothing, that I've got nothing to show for it, surely I can give up 45 minutes a day to do some exercise. And that was kind of, again, another kind of eureka moment from my point of view in terms of, yes, I'll sacrifice that, but what am I sacrificing really? Because I don't even know what I'm doing for that period of time on the phone. So that was a kind of adjustment as well.
That's awesome.
Excellent. Is that it, guys? Right. Phil, Let's see the proof. Let's see the proof. There we go.
Wow. Look at that.
Amazing.
Textbook right there.
The odd blips, I can tell the blips. I can say, oh, that was the day I went for an Indian meal, or that went for a pizza. I know what the little rises are, but yeah, it's been a really good journey, and want to sort of look forward to continuing.
Yeah, and we've got more goals to hit now, Phil, and I just want to say well done. You've done absolutely phenomenal. You're a dream to work with. You're very coachable. And something that like you mention quite often, Phil, which I think people need to understand this and like about paying me, because when people pay, they pay attention, but yeah, well done, buddy. Excellent.
Oh, thank you.
So guys, I hope you all took something away from that, and some of the key things that I feel that was mentioned there on quite a few occasions was planning.
Yeah.
And I know we constantly bang on at you about planning ahead and trying to plan your food, when really it just doesn't take long whatsoever. I know the thought of it might be a bit like, but it's so easy, and it's a great habit to have. It's like planning your work week, your business week, your whatever you're doing over the weekend and things. What you're doing, you need to start making yourselves a priority, and planning things for yourself and your health, and moving forward. You'll thank me, everyone that listens to this, and when you see changes, be consistent, disciplined, put the work in, and you'll get the results like Phil and John and Greg and me. Anyway, thanks, guys. Hope you enjoy it. And again, if you have any ideas, any things about the next podcast or future podcasts that you'd like us to cover, just please shoot any of us a message, and we will make sure that it's covered.